Biden spoke to.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag. United States.
of America.
God.
Okay, we do have a quorum tonight. Have a vacancy. We need elect a vice chair tonight. Nominations are now in order for the office of vice chair of the Columbia County Planning Commission. Have any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to nominate Mr. Jim Steed, Vice Chair.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Congratulations, Jim. I'd like to get approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda meeting, the minutes from the last meeting, excuse me.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Approval of the agenda tonight, and I would like to, with the agenda tonight, I would like to add I-1C2, Edgar Houston Builders. Going to add an item below that. I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second that motion.
With the addition, correct. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on May 6, 2025. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Styler to obtain a request to speak form. Any request with a public hearing will have a minimum of 10 minutes permitted per side for the presentation of opinions, data, and evidence by proponents or opponents of a request. The applicant will be allowed to speak first, and any member of the public may speak after. Either side may cede their time during the hearing if they so desire. Have new business? Butler?
No, Sheriff, this is several massage operators licenses. I believe we spoke about taking these all at one time. So the first one is Pure Motion LLC, 7030 Evans Town Center Boulevard, Suite 203. They're offering on-premise and mobile massage services. Second is Ravenwolf LLC, DBA Massage Nomad at 3685 Riverwatch Parkway, 2100 on-premise and mobile massage services. Last up is Rosewater Spa and Wellness LLC, 20 Ponder Place with a change of applicant to Treasurer Butler. Staff recommends approval of all these requests. So they all meet the state requirements and local requirements. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, do I have a motion on the floor?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve these massage operator licenses for Motion, Ravenwood, Rosewater, and Spa and Fitness.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Exceptional plan. Danielle?
Yes, sir. This is a revision to a previously approved conceptual plan for Hamilton Grove, which is located off Wrightsboro Road and Hamilton Road. It is currently zoned R2, single-family residential. This shows the location of the property, again, between Wrightsboro Road and Hamilton Road. And the existing site, there are existing state waters and associated wetland and floodplain areas that cross the property. The previously approved concept plan from 2021 included 136 lots, and you can see it had multiple access points, 2 on Hamilton Road, and then what was intended to be an emergency access onto Wrightsboro Road. There were some That was an approved concept at that time. You can see it included the creek crossings to provide the accesses from Hamilton Road. A large part of this was due to fire code, requiring multiple access points for this number of lots. The fire code has been revised to increase the number of lots before you actually have to have 2 access points. So the revision to the concept plan essentially splits the development into 2 sections. So you have one section accessing from Wrightsboro Road with the single entrance. The number of lots there does not trigger that second access requirement, so this concept removes those creek crossings. And then you have essentially a second section of the development that is lots fronting on Hamilton Road. Now those lots on Hamilton Road still meet the R2 requirements, but they are smaller than what was on the previous concept plan. There is an approved variance in place for those lots to not have the normally required buffer. But that variance does have a condition that those lots cannot be mass graded, so they will have to be kind of developed site by site as opposed to collectively. Overall, there are no particular concerns with this concept. There was a note with the revision that the applicants are wanting to remove the left turn lane condition. That is not something that can be done with the concept plan. That requires a change of conditions request. So that is something that I expect we may see in the future. But to be clear, we are not changing that condition with this revision to the concept plan. And staff is recommending approval.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the revised concept plan for Hamilton Grove off Wrightsboro Road.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. We have the preliminary plat, Edgar Houston Builders. Danielle?
Yes, sir, this is the preliminary plat for several large lots off Bill Dorn Road. This property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, and is intended to remain that way. This shows the location of the property on the south side of Bill Dorn Road, not far from White Oak Road and the county line. And the preliminary plat includes 26 single-family lots with a minimum lot size of 2.64 when I wrote this, but it's been tweaked a little bit. And an average lot size of just over 4 acres. This does meet the minimum requirements of the RA zoning district. Required setbacks are 75 feet from the center line of Bill Dorn Road, 10 feet from the side property lines, and 25 feet from the rear property lines. And there is a 25-foot buffer at the perimeter of the project. Quite a few of the lots have access from Bill Dorn Road, but several of them are accessed via easements. Some of the lots on Bill Dorn Road, particularly in this curve, do have a no access easement along the frontage to require them to come off of those easement points. That is due to site distance on Bill Dorn with that curve, so to make sure the driveways are in safe locations. There's minimal public infrastructure with this preliminary plat. It is a couple fire hydrants and the water taps. Sewer is not available in this location, but they have provided the soil survey and the health department has approved that. So staff is recommending approval of the preliminary plat.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Edgar Houston Builders off Bill Dorn Road.
Second.
I have a motion duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Have an addition, I-1C2.
Yes, sir. This is a little bit unusual, but this is the final plat for the same development that we just saw the preliminary plat for. Like I mentioned, this final plat has very minimal public infrastructure involved with it. They have bonded that and are requesting approval of the final plat documentation at the same time to allow them to move forward with some other aspects of the project. So again, this is same property on the south side of Bill Dorn Road, currently zoned residential agricultural. And it is 26 larger acreage lots meeting the RA zoning district requirements. Minimum lot size is 2.52 acres with an average of 4.43 acres. Same setbacks as we just saw on the preliminary plat. And staff is recommending approval.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of the final plat for Edgar Houston Builders off Bill Dorn Road.
Second.
I have a motion duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Public hearing section of our meeting. TUA, temporary use authorization. Dylan?
Yes, sir. This is an application for temporary use authorization, 5790 Harlem Grove Town Road. This shows the parcel and its location, again, off of side of Harlem Grovetown Road. And it is currently zoned to RA. This shows the location of the proposed camper, as is customary with the temporary use authorizations. He's requesting to make use of that camper as the primary residence on this property for the next 12 months. The reason for that is damage done to the manufactured home there on the site by Hurricane Helene. Being an application for temporary use authorization affiliated with damage from Helene, we have done what we've been customarily doing with those specific applications by going ahead and giving him approval for utilities to go ahead and connect the camper and create a livable situation out there on his property while he goes ahead and begins the repair process currently. But he will have a 12-month approval window, and as is customary with these applications, from the approval date of his request, should he receive it. He understands that he needs to receive proper permitting for all the work that he does out there for the repairs on the site.
Very
Staff
good,
is recommending approval.
very good. Do y'all have any questions? Owner applicant, Ronald Combs, if you have anything to add, you can come forward and speak. We know your name and address, correct?
Yes, sir. Well, I really want to move back out there and get into the camper. I've already had 3 thefts out there. First one was about 2 months ago, recent one. They tried to remove a vehicle from the property that I just used to move stuff around there. They drove it off the property in Columbia County Sheriff's Department, but I want to get back out there to where I can protect my property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the audience would like to speak for this? Any member of the audience would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the temporary use authorization at 5790 Harlem Grovetown Road.
Second.
I have a motion duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Major PUD revision here, Ms. Mystery.
Yes, so this is a major plan revision for the location at the corner of Ronald Reagan and Evanstown Park Boulevard. It's on 1.38 acres. Current zoning is PUD, and the request is for revision for a new bank and associated site work. This is the location on the corner, the PUD zoning, and this is close up of the aerial. You can just see the Maybon building to the south of that. These are some photographs of the site. It shows the empty lot. That's where the bank is going to sit. And some other photographs where the Maybon building is from the different views, and then the actual corner. So this site has a long history on zoning. The first PUD zoning was in 2004, and it was approved plan for mixed uses. And then in 2009, there was an approved plan showing some retail uses on the area of the site that we're looking at. In 2016, we had the Plaza PUD approved. That was on the adjacent site. And then later on, the Premier mixed-use development that's already constructed. And with this plan, the bank is going to be located right on the street, kind of in line with the Maybon building, with access to the parking lot off Encore Lane. And the development plan shows the location of the building in relation to the site development. There is considerable topography on this area, so the plazas that are incorporated in the site, the stairs go down to the parking lot. There'll be retaining walls finished in brick that match the Maybon building, the way that's situated on the site as well. And the inspiration from the architecture, these are the images that were submitted by the architects. The elevations have been submitted as well. Typically, the Evans Town Center Overlay District has requirements for window sizes and maximum areas of glazing allowed on elevations. This bank design is very creative and brings in elements that were used on the Maybon building and other surrounding buildings there. These are the elevations, the top one facing the park, the bottom one facing the parking lot. The other two elevations, the top one is facing Ronald Reagan Drive. It has a unique stairwell design that will have a mural on the back wall that will be visible through the glass on the front there. And the other elevation is facing the Maybon building. This is a collage of the finished Maybon building and then the rendering for the County Building A that's being built right behind us, and then the Pinnacle Bank that will be on the corner. And just to show that some of the design features with the glazing, the brick, the roof canopies, and the retaining walls all blend in well together on this site. And staff recommends approval for this.
Okay, thank you. Owner of Pinnacle Bank of Georgia or the applicant Joy Newberry, would you like to come forward and speak in favor of this? Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor? Speak your name and address, please, for the record.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex Williams.
Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Good looking bank.
Any other member of the audience would like to speak for this? Any member of the audience would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to recommend approval of file RZ 25-0401, major PUD revision at 801 Ronald Reagan Drive for the development of a new bank.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion on the floor and duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Variance, Callaway Road.
Yes, sir, this is a request for a variance to section 74-80 regarding design of streets, specifically in regards to cul-de-sac length for the property at 414 Callaway Road Extension. This property is located on kind of the west side of Callaway Road Extension off Hereford Farm Road, adjacent to existing phases of Southwind Village. And this is the area of the site. It is currently largely undeveloped. And the variance is in regards to the cul-de-sac length that you can see highlighted there in red. Essentially, this development is proposing this single access road coming off Callaway Road to provide access to the lots in the development. County code limits cul-de-sac lengths to 700 feet without specific approval from the Planning Commission. This cul-de-sac is just under 2,000 feet long per the concept plan. Essentially, there's not a good connection point to be made here. While it would normally, we would say it should connect to Southwind 4, which is adjacent property. There's pretty significant topography along that shared property line. So Southwind 4 was not required to provide a stub out. So effectively, the adjacent approved concept did not leave a connection point for this development due to the topography there. And then theoretically, you could cross back to Callaway Road, but you're essentially making a second connection to the same road and having to cross state waters and some pretty significant topography to do so. The cost to benefit analysis there probably doesn't balance out in this case. So staff is recommending approval of this variance request.
Is the owner, Ryder Screws, or applicant Bo Slaughter would like to come forward and speak in favor of this?
I'm not Bo Slaughter or Roger Screws, but I'm with Houston Homes. Bo represents us. We're got this rezoned and are asking for this variance. Ms. Danielle did a great job of explaining why we're not trying to go over state waters, cross some of this topography that's there.
And what's your name and address, please?
Sorry, I apologize.
What?
6053 Veterans Parkway.
Do you have any questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve file VA 250401.
Thank you.
Permit cul-de-sac exceeding 700 feet at 414 Callaway Road extension.
I'll second.
I have a motion and duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. So did we cover the concept plan?
No, so the concept
Go
plan
ahead.
is a separate item.
All right, go ahead.
So this is the related concept plan for Southwind Phase 5 off Callaway Road Extension. It is 70 single-family lots. This shows, again, the location of the same property we just looked at. That's helpful. And it is currently a largely undeveloped site. There are some state waters and related wetlands on the property that the concept plan largely avoids. You can see them kind of left untouched in this area, other than some proposed stormwater ponds nearby. The plan includes 70 single-family lots. All of them will have public water and sewer access. As conditions of the rezoning, there are significant improvements required to Callaway Road and to its intersection with Hereford Farm. Those are also noted on this concept plan. The concept additionally shows over 36 acres of the property as open space, which greatly exceeds the requirements for the R2 zoning district. And it does show the 50-foot buffer on 3 sides of the property. They will be required to have that buffer on Callaway Road as well. That's not shown at this point, but we'll check that with the construction plans. Again, with the slope analysis, there is no connection to Southwind 4, but the variance request addressed that and the reasons for that, and staff is recommending approval of the concept plan.
Do I have a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the concept plan for Southwind Phase 5 at 414 Callaway Road extension.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Home occupation.
Yes, sir, this is a provisional home occupation for Sandhurst Ground Solutions at 6095 Dogwood Trail. This shows the location of the property on the west side of Dogwood Trail off Old Augusta Highway. And an aerial view of the site showing the existing house and kind of the cleared area up here, which is intended to be the parking area for the related equipment. As we can see on the site plan here, this was the house we just saw, and then that parking storage area. This is a site preparation business, so they do have some equipment involved in that business. There is a truck and 2 trailers, as well as a mini excavator and a skid steer that will be parked on the property. You can see that's somewhat central to the site with kind of trees and landscaping around it. And this type of equipment's not unusual to be parked on an RA property. So at this scale, there aren't any particular concerns with this use in this location, and staff is recommending approval.
The owner applicant, Felipe Sanchez, would like to come forward and speak in favor of this.
Good evening. I'm Felipe Sanchez, and I'm trying to run a small business, and it's my first time trying to do this. And as the business grows, actually, I have to find me a different location to start storing either materials, supplies, or either equipment. But at the time, as my business is starting, and it's not that big, that's the reason I'm trying to get this provisional.
Have any questions? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Any member of the audience would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the provisional home occupation for Sandhurst Ground Solutions at 6095 Dogwood Trail.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Major S1 revision.
Yes, sir, this is a request for a major S1 revision at 2240 and 2248 William Few Parkway. This shows the location of the property on kind of the northwest side of William Few Parkway across from Patriots Park. And it is currently zoned S1 per a rezoning that was done in 2020. That rezoning was done to allow an existing contractor's office to continue operation and to allow a second one to be added to the site. There were several conditions approved with that rezoning. One of those limited the uses on the property to RA uses. The applicant does live on the property, so their house and pool and associated residential structures are on there. as well as the 2 contractors' offices. And there was a limit of no more than 2 business licenses and only contractors' offices and those RA uses. The current request is to revise that to allow a retail nursery and a small gift shop on the property, as well as to revise the building setbacks. This shows an aerial of the site with the existing buildings. The house and kind of the residential area is on this end of the property, with the businesses kind of located more centrally. And this shows a photo of the existing site. The greenhouse you can see here is one of the reasons for the request to revise the front building setback. It has been constructed and does appear to be within the current building setback for the property. And this shows the oblique view, so you can see the existing buildings on the site a little bit more clearly. The overall plan for the site is to, again, add the retail nursery and gift shop that is intended to be in the center of the site in one of the existing buildings, and would also use the greenhouse and nursery space for the retail materials. There are potential plans to expand the buildings in the future, so there are some potential building additions shown on this plan. They are generally centrally located to the site, and so shouldn't have any impacts on the adjacent properties. The fire marshal has noted that they may not meet fire code as currently shown, so there is a proposed condition to allow them to kind of adjust these locations as they go through site plan review to meet the fire code requirements. The other additional building on the residential side is the RV shed or carport type cover. That is currently where it's shown would be within the current front setback for this property. So the other part of this S1 revision request is to reduce the front setback to 85 feet from the center line to allow that construction and to make the greenhouse compliant with the front setback as well. With the kind of, since 2020, one of the major changes that has happened on this property is that the access has been improved. One of the major concerns at the time of that original rezoning was there were 4 driveway access points to this property on a curve on William Few. The applicants were required to remove several of those driveways and actually relocate the driveway. So the driveway entrance now lines up with the entrance to Patriots Park, which is much safer from a traffic standpoint. Traffic engineering has no comments or concerns with the current request to add the retail use to the property, given the traffic improvements that have taken place in the interim. In terms of future development map, this property is in the neighborhood's character area. Generally, this area is intended for single-family residential use, and while there is a residential aspect to this property, a large portion of the site is essentially industrial in character at the moment with the contractors' offices that are operating there. Now, one of the interesting things about this location is that the quarry is next door to it, so there is quite a bit of industrial use in the area. There's also a community crossroads nearby, and we did note in the 2020 report that with that community crossroads nearby, a more retail-oriented use might be more appropriate in this area than continued industrial use as this area develops. So the addition of the retail nursery in that sense makes some sense, kind of continues what we were encouraging with the previous report as far as future land use in this area to be more direct service to the residents in this area as opposed to the industrial nature of the contractors' offices. Given that, we think this is a reasonable expansion of the use, and we are recommending approval with several conditions. Several of these are carried forward from that 2020 approval, so still limiting the site to no more than 2 active businesses at any given time, requiring the buffer along William Few Parkway, which again is carried forward from the 2020 rezoning, revising the condition about allowed uses to include the retail nursery and gift shop, and then having the condition to allow minor relocation of the buildings during site plan review to meet fire code requirements. That concludes staff recommendation.
Okay, do the owners, April or Ryan Kroger, or applicant Ryan Kroger, like to come forward and speak in favor of this?
I'm Ryan Kroger. No, we just have had the vision to property when we bought it 12 years ago. His business has grown, and we've been thinking as we're trying to comply within Columbia County needs and that they're asking of us. That, and here, happy to answer.
Questions? Thank you. Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Any member of the audience would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend disapproval of file RZ 250402 Major S1 Parkway.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor of the disapproval, raise your right hand. All those against? And carries 4-1. Okay. We have a rezoning from S1. Will?
Southern Sheriff's request for rezoning from a split zone S1 and R3 to S1 special for proposed elementary school at 316 Baston Road. This is for Augusta Christian. This location of the property on the east side of Baston Road, immediately across the street from the existing Augusta Christian campus. And the current zoning is currently split zoned. If you're curious, the S1 was for basically a personal care home. The C2 to the north, you have some R3 to in the south, and also some P1. Across the street, the majority of the use is the Christian school itself, and again, some more R3 spread throughout the area. This location of the or the aerial view of the site, again, you can see the existing building here, and then some other kind of ancillary buildings, buildings on there as well. There's the site itself, side of the property, and the overall conceptual plan. So currently, Augusta Christian has two campuses. They have the main one that we just saw. There's one over on Furious Ferry. They have them split up with basically your kindergarten and second grade out at Furious Ferry. And the rest of the grade is all the way through high school or across the street from this location. What they're wanting to do is have an elementary school in the traditional sense here, K through 5, on approximately 42,000 to 6,000 square feet. And all the other grades will be across the street. They would be able to take out the 3rd through 5 and move it over here, kind of separate everybody in a more traditional way in some respects. With that, again, on the site itself, let's talk about that real quick. So you have a large parking lot up front. You have the elementary building here, 2 stories, the gymnasium in the back, which may be gymnasium / events building, like where you have your concerts and that kind of thing for the band. Playground and field is located on the north side, again, away from the residential. The idea is to keep those buffered between the two uses. You have a 30-foot buffer on the south side. On the east side there, also a 30-foot buffer, but there is some ability to kind of get into that for the retention pond, not knowing exactly how that's going to look, so they do want some flexibility there. Again, on the south side, you would have a fence. The idea is to keep those separate and try and not impact the neighbors at all. So our biggest concern with this, when they first came in, was traffic. We said, look, you're going to have 2 schools across from each other. That can get really interesting for traffic. We see it with the BOE schools. Traffic's always a fun thing to have at these schools. We observed their traffic flow, the existing traffic flow at the current facility. Kind of saw that it has to have a policeman there to direct it a little bit, but it doesn't impact the area that much at all. Now, what we did see as well, talking with our engineers, their engineer, and kind of sitting down and going through kind of how you could solve this issue, there's quite a lot of stacking area across the street for people picking up on that side of the street. Currently, they're not really using that. It would require them to kind of reconfigure how they move traffic throughout that side of the street itself. But there is a lot of stacking there. You can see it here, very crudely drawn by me, kind of yellow area. You can basically stack the whole way back to the football field. You can put quite a lot in there. Again, it would require them to kind of redo how they stack how they do traffic on that side of the street. You go back to the elementary school site. With that one, again, we don't want to have people kind of hanging out in the road or getting into the street while they're waiting to pick up their kids. On the elementary school side, it is wide enough, or can be made wide enough, to basically, you can stack the whole way here, and then also the whole way here, and also into the parking lot itself. We think there's quite enough room to be able to not impact traffic with these modifications to it. Now, you're probably asking the question, sounds great, I don't see a condition from traffic. Traffic is hesitant to say, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, because there is still some engineering to be done, to be honest. They don't want to outline exactly how this will be handled. However, it is very much known between the two parties, the county and Augusta Christian, this will have to be addressed. Part of our, is approved and is built, you're gonna have to modify across the street to make everything function well. The other thing with it, this doesn't have sewer going to it currently. There is a condition from the health department that says they must connect to sewer as a requirement. According to the applicant, that should be done before BOC, at least having that agreement mostly nailed down. So that should be complied with. Overall, from the standpoint of the future land use map itself, this is within an area that schools are basically allowed everywhere. I'll just go ahead and tell you. So it fits in that respect. Again, with the knowledge that there is a traffic concern, but it is one that we are not conditioning it. Staff recommends approval of the request with the following conditions. Again, the connection of the county sewer. And again, similar to what Danielle spoke about before, with some of these concept plans, don't have the fire marshal and fire department's requirements are maybe not, those guys cannot tell you exactly if it complies or not. For often, we will build in the ability to move things around to address their concerns. The biggest one of that would be on the north side of the property. Getting access for a fire truck back there will probably require a wider road, that kind of thing. We're not talking about totally changing the site, is what I'm getting at. Again, staff recommends approval with those two conditions.
The owner applicant, Baston Village LLC, and the applicant, Augusta Christian School Incorporated, would like to come forward and speak in favor of this. Please say your name and address.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Joe Todd, 931 Big Oak Circle, Augusta 30907. Yeah, thank you guys for considering this. I've worked with Will over the last couple months, and our engineers in here as well. Water. So Augusta Christian moved. I just real quick, I do serve on the board at Augusta Christian, so I'm here representing the school board capacity, and our chairman of our board is here tonight. Augusta Christian moved to Baston Road in the mid-1970s. So K through 12 has been here for a while. At some point, actually kindergarten and first grade are on Furious Ferry. Second grade and up are already on Baston Road. So we are bringing some additional kids to the area, but only a couple of grades. And currently, one of the things, if we could show on the slide, do we have a picture, Will, at all of the actual elevations of our existing campus? Is that in there?
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are familiar, we made a pretty large upgrade to the building on Baston Road, to the main campus. But one of the biggest challenges is how do you shut down and how do you tear down a building in May and rebuild it before August? So we're kind of stuck with some older buildings, and how do you phase that as we really, it's not about growing our school numbers, it's about how do you upgrade facilities. So having a standalone kindergarten, but in the same proximity where it could still be serviced well by our head of school, and the principal could manage one elementary school, no different than any other elementary school in town. It would be great to not have that divided, right? So that's one of the goals. Campus security is certainly a big thing, having that much more homogeneous in the general location. But more than anything, this particular project, to Will's point, addressing traffic is something we're very open to. But it's hard to do it out of order. It'd be hard to close on the property and then go through design, then rezone later. We definitely feel like to have the comfort of the rezoning, knowing we're certainly going to go through engineering, certainly going to work close with traffic and whatever, and we want to make it as good for our families and any neighbors in the area as well. So traffic on the new site and traffic on the existing site, we're open to those.
Thank you. We have any questions?
I've got one. Are y'all going to be letting out and taking in at the same time for both schools? So
it's certainly something we would look at. Currently, the pickup is a little bit of we have someone out front with a flag, and it's been going on for years. And as soon as elementary is picked up, the flag drops and you can come get middle school. So people, pull in all different neighborhoods, and you kind of hover, and you've got to time it just right, or else you're 20, 30 cars deep. So, yeah. So there'll probably be some kind of staggering. I think that'd be pretty normal, especially if you've got a kid in 4th grade and 6th grade. It would be good for those parents. So we'll certainly try to do best practices there. I wouldn't imagine it would be the exact same time. those reasons.
I just thought that'd lessen the traffic. a
Yeah,
little.
I think it would, yeah, I think giving a little, some kind of little difference would be good.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Please, say your name and address, please.
Terrence Vandiver, 715 Hudgens Court, Evans, Georgia. Thank you all for hearing us on tonight. And speaking, just kind of following up on what Mr. Todd shared with you all, as the chairman of the Board of Trustees, we are charged with the trust of ensuring the safety of our students and making sure that we steward the culture of the school, but also making sure that we are not placing the school at any risk of liability, things of that nature. And presently, some of our operations aren't the most effective and the most efficient based upon the different locations that we have. One of the first things is we are in the employ of 2 deputies who are with us and who police both campuses, both Furious Ferry Road and the Baston Road property. One of the benefits of this particular property is it would improve and decrease rather our response times when necessary. Those types of instances are rare, but we want them to be able to get to us quickly, and to have the one school across from the other would greatly enhance our ability to protect our children. As an aside, I believe the new construction would allow us to build in particular safety measures that aren't currently present in the older buildings that we have with the school. So it gives us an opportunity to better protect our children. Likewise, it reduces some of our liability in that our lunchroom staff, they currently make the meals for the students on the Baston Road campus, and for those who are at the Furious Ferry campus, they have to shuttle those meals down to those students, allowing them to have to be on the roads unnecessarily if we can get that building across the street built out properly and allow them to be more efficient. Also, just the continuity of the kids to be able to look across that street, and this is a feeler type of thing, but to be able to look across the street and see the place that they will spend the next phase of their education is very important. I think it allows for the continuity of the culture and allows for a better academic progression more smoothly than it does presently. And so for those reasons, I would love to have that approval, and we look forward to hearing your response. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Any member would like to speak against this? Please come forward and say your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Lisa Snowdy. I live on Revere Place right off Baston Road. And it's great that Augusta Christian, wants to expand across the street. There is a lot of traffic, and the biggest thing that concerns me is Friday night football games. I've seen people run across Baston Road, and it's so dark, and because they're parking over there in that area some now already. And anyway, it's just that's a dangerous street, and gets a lot of traffic, and speed limit is 45 miles an hour. Baston Road. That's my biggest concern.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the audience would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to recommend approval with conditions, file RZ 25-04-03, zoning from R3 to R3 and S1 to S1 for a private school at 360 Baston Road.
I second that motion.
I have a motion on the floor, duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. I have a major planned unit development. Dylan?
Yes, sir. This is an application for major planned unit development revision at 776 and 778 Marsh. This shows the location of the parcel. It's within the River Island subdivision development. And as such, it is zoned, as already referenced, planned unit development as a part of that development as well. This specific section of River Island is characterized by alley-loaded lots. As you can see here on the aerial of the site, the driveway for this parcel is served by Marsh Point Alley, kind of to the rear of how the house is oriented, rather than off the main road of Marsh Point Road. This application is seeking basically relief from that requirement and to make use of a driveway from Marsh Point Road. Something else you can see in the aerial of this site is actually previously was 2 separate residential sites in this section of the neighborhood that have now subsequently been combined due to shared ownership between the two previous parcels. The development proposed on the site is actually for an auxiliary building, not an entirely separate residence. It's a golf cart garage, utility room, and a workspace affiliated with the garden that's proposed. We'll see more of the site plan here in just a moment. The existing, an important note on that previous slide though, one of the existing issues with the site, as you can see here, is this retention wall to the right of the front of the house. We're on Marsh Point Road with this orientation. It would be difficult to make use of Marsh Point Alley for the new proposed structure if it wanted to have a driveway because of that wall that's now existing. That was permitted and approved by Columbia County separately from this now proposed structure. It was in complete compliance with the zoning and Columbia County Code, so it was fine to be constructed that way. However, it now, even though there was no issue with the wall at that time, presents an issue for this proposed new structure if it were to want to make use of a driveway. This is a plat for the property showing the abandoned kind of central lot line on the site. Now it is a joint parcel like we previously discussed. And this is the proposed concept plan for the structure. Again, it's a small structure, especially compared to the current residents on the property. It shows a garden area between that retention wall and the proposed structure. Again, part of the structure is intended for workspace for that garden, and the garage aspect of the proposed structure is only for a golf cart. Most important aspect of this proposal that kind of gives it more viability in staff's view is the materials that are proposed for that driveway are large stone paver with grass infill. Part of the reason the alley-loaded lots are proposed in this section of the neighborhood is because it fronts up to the riverfront. Part of the reason to have the driveways to the rear of the homes is so that the view of the river, kind of the biggest asset to this section of the neighborhood, would be unimpeded by driveways. Given this kind of emphasis on visual impact of driveways, these proposed materials are about as, they're less impactful than a traditional paved driveway. And if we were to propose it, this would be something that we'd be looking for to kind of lessen the visual impact of that driveway's presence on that roadscape, to continue to kind of preserve the views of the river that are intended by the zoning in this area. And so with that, staff is recommending approval of their application.
Thank you. The owner, Nicholas or Marie Capito, and/or applicant Davis of Davis Custom Homes would like to come forward and speak in favor of this.
Kai Jones with Davis Custom Homes. President wanted the retaining wall so he could have a back of the road. Retaining wall in a flat. Golf cart garage below. Driveway we are doing is natural stone. Base, anywhere. About 8, 10 feet. Permeable driveway. Runoff. And then the height of the garage higher than the bottom, so that height-wise.
Thank you. Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Any member would like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of file RZ 25-04-04, major PUD revision to permit a driveway from Marsh Point Road property at 776.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor, duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Additional use of the daycare center, Will?
Sheriff's request for additional use for daycare at 450 Flowing Wells Road, currently zoned P1 professional. This location of the property at the intersection of Old Anderson Road and Flowing Wells. And currently zoned P1. It was rezoned back in 2015 and has remained undeveloped since then. Again, surrounded mostly by R2 development, to both the north, east, south across Old Anderson Road, and then also across Flowing Wells Road itself. We have some close by industrial and commercial further to the south. Aerial view of the site, again, currently undeveloped. And the site itself. And the plat of the property. So what they're requesting is basically about a 13,000 square foot building with a daycare in it. It'll operate from about 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Expect to have about 25 to 30 employees. They'll start off with 40 kids in there and grow to about 200. So one of the things with the conditional use is you have some use provisions that go with it. With this situation, you basically are talking about they have enough room for it's 35 square feet of indoor space for each child and 100 square feet outside. Those are basically mirroring the state requirements. So you're kind of looking, okay, is that feasible here? They've actually shown us a plan that they are meeting that quite well, better than most. Again, they have a requirement for the outdoor area to be surrounded by a fence. Again, they're on the property or on the concept plan here. And also, that's really it from a design standpoint. Down to, okay, they've met those requirements. Does that mean we approve it? Well, it depends on the area. Now, in this situation, it is zone P1. They do show the 20-foot structural buffers. It's residential here and here. One thing with the concept, this pond that's over here will actually be up front when it's actually designed. They are showing some access on Flowing Wells Road. One of the things with this, kind of like the previous one on Bastion Road, there are some traffic concerns. Again, a daycare similar to a school can have lots of traffic going in and out throughout the day. There is a concern about the Flowing Wells access itself. Again, there is not a hard line condition proposed on this. This has been discussed with the applicant. They have said they will have pickup times and they understand how traffic functions in the area. But again, it's going to be a balancing act of, okay, here is this use that does have or can have a lot of people in it. How do you then make sure it doesn't impact the area? That's just one of the important things with this. Taking into that account, we feel it can be done. We've looked at it, but again, traffic is not getting into the business of providing a condition on this one. So in terms of future land use, you saw it before, the conceptual rendering that they provided. There is a condition from the rezoning for 2015 that requires a little bit of different architecture, we'll say. They're working through that. This is to show us here's what it could look like. Probably be a little different. In terms of future development, so this area is within an activity center. It's an employment center. It is intended to have basically commercial and office uses within it. You'll see there is this kind of this little red piece jutting in here. Again, rezoned back in 2015. So when we redid the future development map in 2020, we'll probably need to include that. So that's why you have this kind of finger going into there. Overall, it does meet the future development map. Again, there is a concern from traffic with this, but again, no conditions proposed. Taking all that into account, staff recommends approval of the request for conditional use for a daycare. Staff recommendation.
Owner Brantley Real Estate LLC and applicant Matt Gregory, would you like to come forward and speak in favor of this?
David Wallace. I'm with the Franchise Corporation. Franchisees could not be here this evening, so I'm here representing them. Love the area. We feel that, as far as putting a daycare here, it is a daycare, so we're servicing children from infants to pre-K. This area would be perfect for our school. So I'm here to represent and maybe answer. You did a great job explaining how our system works. So the parking is a challenge. I know that. If we could get up to 45 parking spaces, that would help the way our flow runs. Drop off and pick up in the evening. Now, I'm here representing the company and the franchisee.
Thank you. Questions?
Questions?
Well, the only I'd have is about the traffic with Flowing Wells instead of Anderson. Has that been considered?
So there's traffic engineering would tell you that they do not want the entrance to be on flowing wells. However, as I've told both the applicant and them, it becomes an argument between engineers at that point of, prove it. And that's kind of where they're hesitant to say, you shall not have an entrance. They're of the mind that this is good work, but at the same time, they're also like, we don't want to. A little surprising, in my opinion, to be very open about it. Typically, they would provide a recommendation or a condition that spells out exactly how they want to do it. But again, there are concerns that they do not want to tie this a requirement that may not actually.
So basically approving this would be the approving what's signed here going based on that.
Let me back up. So yeah, the concept plan, this is not binding.
Okay.
Again, this is not what they're going to build. This has not been engineered. I mean, we've had discussions with their engineer. Engineer's really quick to say, this site is tight.
Okay.
To it. I mean, it's one of those that, again, this pond will be up here on the actual design.
Okay.
This was basically a concept that says, okay, can we fit this thing on here? Yeah, we can at the end of the day. We can fit it on there. It is not engineered in any way. This is not, can't build off this thing. We'll put it that way.
All right, that was my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this? Any member would like to speak against this, you come forward and speak your name and address.
I live in the neighborhood. I'm Angela Lewis, and I live on Benson Court, which is right near that area. It's very dangerous already. Have a lot of traffic coming, using it as a parallel to flowing wells. And I wonder about the danger in that area. I'm not against the daycare, but if there's the traffic is hard. And that's my main concern. If you ever come up from like Wheeler Road into Flowing Wells, it's very close, and there's a right turn. And also, we have, in that neighborhood, there's questionable activity around the houses, and they're abandoned, some abandoned area. And right across the street, I don't know if the county's going to end up buying it. I'm just curious what's going to happen in that area across from that property. But it is, to me, a dangerous area in there for a daycare or children coming in and out. The traffic can be solved. I wouldn't be against it. Anybody in the future could educate me who to go to, what's going to happen there. I'd like to know.
So in other words, you're talking about the traffic on Flowing Wells?
Yes.
Well, that's my concern too.
The widening didn't help?
I agree.
Did the widening of Flowing Wells help?
And then you got to think about the other schools too, the traffic. Got Augusta Prep, got Martinez Elementary, but
So what you're saying is an old Anderson Road entrance would probably seem best, but that's up to
and
traffic.
now it's dangerous, and people come flying in my court, and I wonder if we're even going to have a neighborhood anymore. The water company has bought a little area in there, and but the house across the street, I guess you would say, is it Old Anderson? That house has been abandoned, and I'm telling you, dangerous activity been going on in that abandoned house.
Are you talking about this house?
The one that's right across from that area.
So you can draw on that screen.
Yeah, you can touch the screen and point for one.
I'm not for sure.
Right here.
Hey, can you tell me which one?
Talking about 458?
Between 458 and 430.
That's right, okay. Right, where the opposite side, 458 is the area you're talking about, the property, where the signs were.
Yeah, we're talking this property here.
Yeah, it's 450.
Yeah, and right, almost, it's been abandoned right around to that I guess 3, but is that part No, it'd be the house here, and they bought, somebody, the county bought that, I think, right next to, the farmhouse and the Frog and Hen.
Yeah, so farmhouse is just off the bottom of the screen.
But this is off of Old Anderson Road right here.
Okay.
So I would say it would probably be, I assume,
So your main concern is traffic?
I'm over here in, or down, Benson.
Right.
But what they do, it looks longer than it should be, but it's real short, and people come in and line in the court, you know, and got kids. A parallel. And see, right here where the farmhouse is, and the Frog and Hen, I imagine it's some of McKnight industrial area. Back along that way, but there's a quick right turn. You know, to me, it's dangerous anyway there. And if you're gonna have a daycare right around in there on Flowing Wells, that's gonna be kind of dangerous to me. I'm not against it, it's just, is there anything that can be resolved? They did do it, you know.
And I think all we're voting on today is the fact that they could put a daycare there on this zoning.
That's
They would
it.
still have to come forward with their
Plans will
traffic plan
change.
and have all that approved prior to the
That's correct.
building going
Correct.
vertical.
Couple things. One, the property that we were talking about at 386, the Board of Commissioners did purchase that. As you said, really the request is for the property at 450, and traffic will, working with the applicant, you know, assuming this moves forward, with that access location, whether that is Flowing Wells or if it becomes an Old Anderson access point. One of the things I would point out too is that with the exception of the property in question at P1, the remainder of that is residential zone. So there is some consideration to putting a commercial driveway necessarily in a residential area to further increase that commercial, non-residential traffic in that residential area. But to your point of concern about abandonment and lack of property maintenance, we can certainly have our code enforcement folks take a look, kind of make sure that that's up to snuff.
And right across the street from me, I think it was a company called Soto, it might have changed names. Oh, I'm been going that too, but
Okay.
there's a lot of police have been out there on and off, and fire truck quite often, and wonder about that being so nearby. And it seems to be, I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, it's more like and I don't want to say something in the wrong way, but it seems like they're severely mentally disturbed. And they've got about 5 people living in there, and I wonder, that being so close by to the daycare, and they let them wander. They even wander in my yard, you know, so.
Saying there's an assisted living home in that
I
area?
think that's more of a group home.
The Soto homes are group homes, so they provide services to individuals who are mentally or physically disabled. They are, they're very good about being licensed and following county code and state law as far as.
The code, as far as code, and grass is as tall as I am over there, and trash. And it's not just me, it's in the neighborhood in Windridge behind it. Another man, there's another property right across the street, and he said they throw garbage out on their side. But if that's another department,
We can get code
You know.
enforcement.
Yeah,
Take a
We'll
peek through
get
the
code.
neighborhood.
and even the law has come out and told me to talk to the code enforcement, and
That's right.
I get scared of doing it because I have to live across the street from it. So,
Okay, thank you.
Well,
You
thank
have
you.
any more
Right.
questions?
Yep, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, we'll see that code checks that out, okay? You're welcome. Okay, any other member of the audience like to speak against this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of file RZ 250405, conditional use for a daycare at 450 Flowing Wells Road.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. We have a variance to section 34.1. Danielle?
Yes, sir, this is a variance to section 34-1 regarding major site grading for property off Stable Bridge Way. This is in regards to the buffer requirement for properties that are subject to major site grading. This shows the location of the property off the end of Stable Bridge Way, off Hereford Farm Road. And it is currently zoned R2, single-family residential. And this shows the aerial of the site. One thing to note, you can see this little strip that's around the property. That is a 30-foot wide golf course buffer strip that is essentially required to remain there as a golf course buffer. That was one of the conditions of zoning when this property was pulled out of the Bartram Trail PUD and rezoned to R2. Additionally, the large property kind of to the west or the northwest is the Bartram Trail Wilderness Trust. So that is also property that will not be developed. The existing site is undeveloped. It looks like trees. And the plan is to develop this as the next phase of Four Oaks. This site does have some significant topography to work with, so you can see there's quite a bit of grading involved with this site. The applicants did attempt to kind of phase this construction to avoid triggering the major site grading requirements. Unfortunately, with the way the property falls and the slopes involved, that required some kind of awkward workarounds that included storm pipe being installed during home building phase. Would have had multiple as-builts and acceptances of improvements and such involved with that, as well as a phase between kind of initial construction and that final construction being complete, where the stormwater system may not actually function the way it's supposed to, because it wouldn't all be installed yet, because it would be pending the homes being built. So in this case, with the proposed development and the slopes involved, it's going to be much more effective in the long run to actually major site grade this property. That would ordinarily require an increase in the buffer width to 50 feet, but this property is pretty uniquely sited with the existing 30-foot golf course buffer and the wilderness trust surrounding it. So even reducing the buffer to 30 feet still provides over 50 feet of buffer on all sides of the property. That being the case, staff is recommending approval to reduce that buffer to 30 feet to allow them to develop this property with major site grading.
Thank you. The owner, Fast Eddie LLC, and our applicant Tyler Finley would like to come forward and speak in favor of this.
Thank you. Tyler Finley with Houston Homes, 6053 Veterans Parkway, Columbus, Georgia. We looked at this a couple different ways, or several different ways. Ms. Danielle has kind of laid out exactly what we've looked at. We thought it would be, because we are the end user, developer, and builder, we thought we can go in, very minimal impact, and grade these lots as we built the homes. But it just didn't work out that way. And so that's why we're here tonight asking for it, so we can go ahead and mass grade. But again, to Ms. Danielle's point, I think we have about 60 feet buffer on all sides. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
Good. Appreciate it, thank you. Any other member would like to speak in favor of this? Anyone in present would like to speak against this? Come forward and speak your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Michael Quiliano. I live at 1731 Stable Bridge Way. I'm the last property on the right side of that proposed development, where they're going to grade the land. I wonder how much of my property they're going to take away.
So you're in the existing phases of Four Oaks.
Yes, that's correct.
They're going to extend Stable Bridge across the golf course, so they won't actually be developing immediately adjacent to you. They're actually going to be on the other side of the golf course from you, other than the extension of Stable Bridge Way itself.
There's quite a deep a ravine there.
Mm-hmm.
There is, yep. The engineers will have to work that out and work the grading out for that.
When a man came up from Houston Homes to talk to me about the property, he said that he wanted to use some of my land for the operation.
I'm not familiar with that, but maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Might have been for construction, for temporary construction, perhaps?
And I told him I didn't want to, disrupt the property. So he just left me a map and he left. Is this going to disrupt my property at all?
No, so if you choose not to give them an easement, then they are not allowed to disturb your property. So they can ask, but they can't force you to do that.
I declined an easement on it, and he said he would, there's a fire hydrant located down the end of that street, and he'd have to dig it up and disturb some of my property to put in that extension of the road.
Well, the fire hydrant's on the easement, and if it's on the easement, they can come in and rework the fire
Yeah,
connection
the water
there.
the should actually be in the right-of-way. It
It's in
shouldn't
the
even
right
be-
of way, yes.
I wouldn't see where they.
Not
would
easement,
Fire
right,
hydrant.
right of way.
Have to tie into that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll have
they
to extend the water line.
In that hydrant.
They gotta dig up and tie in the line and take it across. Line stops, deadheads there. It's got-
Oh,
Have you looked at your property to see if you already have an existing on the property?
It was not clear at the time.
I would check there first. If there's already an easement there for, if there's like a water line that extends onto the property, there's already an easement there, there's already an easement there, so they can access it.
When they put in those other homes on that road that turns off of there, they ran over my water line 3 times and broke it. I had to repair it. I'm concerned that, the construction is gonna disrupt that again and tear up my water line for the county.
Have any questions?
I think during construction, our inspectors will be out there for the road construction and all of that, so homes will be aware of all of that. So I think there's some understanding that they're gonna need to be careful when they're in and around proximity to private property, so certainly flag that as well.
Which office do I find out that has the easement?
If there's an easement on your property, it'll be shown on the plat, which you should have gotten at closing, but if you didn't, you can get it from the clerk of court's office.
Next door at the county.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Any other member of the audience like to speak against this? I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of file VA 250402, variance to section 34-1 to reduce the width of the undisturbed buffer to 30 feet.
Second?
I have a motion on the floor, duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Have some text amendments.
That we do. 3 of them.
3 of them will.
So the first one on there is the 74, or Chapter 74 subdivisions, Arkansas procedure for plat approval, Section 74-36 generally. So to give you a 10,000-foot view of what we're changing, primarily it is how concept plans are done. So tonight y'all saw Hamilton Grove concept plan. Now those of y'all who have been here for a while, how many times have you seen Hamilton Grove? Tyler's laughing because he knows there's a few. So the reason we want to change it is to make it where, again, as y'all saw, that all that discussion is technical. Us talking with them. Y'all are essentially a rubber stamp, to be really honest to you. And it is to basically take out those situations. We're not having to bring stuff back over and over and over again. Basically makes it where we will bring it to you when it's rezoned. We'll say, here's their concept plan. And then if they're not drastically changing that plan, you won't see it again until it comes back as a plat. It makes so that we're able to not have to say, okay, great, this sounds good, you got a concept plan, we gotta take it back to the commission, and they're saying, I gotta wait 2 weeks for this. That is the intent behind that. Also, if there's something that doesn't have any kind of county utilities or anything we're gonna take, we could actually say no concept plan at all required. And that would be few and far between, but that is now an option, made very explicitly. So that is the intent behind that. And kind of to give you an overview of kind of where all these came from, The commission, well, we'll say developers and other folks who deal with these requirements quite often, they have some opinions on them. And those opinions were made known to the commission. Commission then said, all right, we want to revise this. Now, the other thing too, it's two-way street. We as staff have also wanted to make revisions to these. One, that we are not being forced or anything to make these revisions. So we worked with our office internally, our staff worked with administration, then took it to a committee of developers, builders, realtors, folks in the finance side of it, and said, here's what we were proposing, let's talk about it. They've all agreed with it. The commission was involved in that as well. So these are things that have been pretty heavily vetted at this kind of what folks want to see, the changes made, you know, the agreements kind of put in place to the give and take, to be honest. So that is the overall what has changed with 74-36. There's another part to it that we've kind of codified what we're already doing. If you're basically developing off of a county road, you can use that existing parcel. That won't count towards your 4 lots if you're doing a minor plat. We were already doing that ourselves, but we wanted to make sure it was there in case y'all kick the bucket all of a sudden. So it's there in perpetuity. That includes the kind of brief on this text amendment. And I'll turn. Again, we do recommend approval of this text amendment for section 74-36.
7436, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Public hearings.
Yes, any member of the audience would like to speak for this, Chapter 74? Anyone here would like to speak against this? I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of text amendment of Chapter 74, Subdivision 7, Section 74-36.
Second.
I have a motion duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next text amendment, Chapter 90.
I think this is section 139, buffers and screening. This is where we spent the majority of our time. Buffers are pretty heavily debated especially on residential. Again, we're kind of talking about it tonight. Mass grade, you got a 50-foot buffer required. Now, there is a companion to this that y'all won't actually see because it is in basically engineering's side of the house. They have different rules. So they're gonna also revise their side with some changes with the buffer code that we're proposing, but also some more technical aspects of that. Just so there are two kind of pieces moving at kind of the same speed. We're a little faster. So the biggest thing here is that the 50-foot buffer is getting cut in half to 25 feet on residential properties. Again, the 50-foot when it came about was a huge change. Heavy debate on that for several years. Now we're not just cutting in half and saying everything's good at this point. You also have a requirement that it has to be basically on its own lot. The reason for that is if you have right now, if you have a 50-foot buffer, you can have it be on somebody's lot that you're going to sell to them. Over time, that buffer might get a little smaller. I've already seen it with some variances and requests that we've gotten where they've had a buffer on that site. They've gone there and removed trees, and especially now after Helene, folks like get trees away from my house. So it's one that moving forward with the idea is that, okay, we're not going to have a 50-foot buffer anymore. We're going to have a 25-foot that is its own parcel, owned by an HOA. Now, an unintended consequence of that is that you've now basically required HOAs on many developments. They already exist for the most part, but it is one that's kind of, again, the give and take. We'll cut this thing in half, but you're going to have this on its own. You're going to have to own that, maintain that forever. So you do have that with kind of the big change for everybody. The other, y'all may have, I can't remember the last one we did, but we've had to do variances to allow a a driveway or a road to go from a commercial property into a residential subdivision perhaps. With this revision, we're changing that to where if you're wanting to do that, you can basically ask for it at site plan. You're not having to do a variance for that. It'll kind of cuts down on that requirement because again, most of the times it's going to be okay to do that. So that's one change there. The other thing is we've seen berms used to great success on Baker Place Road, ones that are well established. We've also had to have folks ask for essentially a variance to allow those. We now have the ability to ask for that basically at plan review. come in and say, I want to do a berm instead of doing a planted, normal trees perhaps. So that's a change there to kind of give them more flexibility on being able to request things, not have to wait, for that sort of action. The other thing too, is that there's some cleaning up of some language in there. The other thing though is that we've now clarified that essentially if you have a more intense use, like if you're C3 against a house or C3 against C2 or something, you're providing the buffer. We're no longer requiring, if you have RA to RA, to have a 25-foot buffer. That makes no sense. Now, it does make for better neighbors, some would argue, but at the same time, we've also said that causes problems. Because it's one that it basically requires us, as we've seen, we've had rezonings where we've had to go in and say, okay, we're going to have to reduce the buffer in between these two, a C3 and a C2. And then the other thing too is we've now called, because we've rezoned this property as C3, that C2 has to do a buffer now at some point. And it makes no sense. It's just one of those things that we've taken all that out. Again, the thing to remember is basically if you're more intense, you're doing the buffer, not your neighbor. I've also revised some of the things, kind of a little more technical side of it. There are still buffers required for industrial to commercial, but they're the minimum 10-foot buffer that's already required by use provisions. So again, lots of changes with buffers. Again, this is the one that was the big ticket for the development community. Had lots of things that, look, you're taking property from me, which, there's an argument to be made for that. The other thing too, we do have, if you're basically adjacent to county-owned, BOE-owned, government-owned property, we're usually not zoned correctly. We're usually, like for instance, I guess you could argue that Patriots Park could be RA, but again, we don't have to follow zoning rules. We can be zoned however we please. A lot of times you can have what amounts to a commercial development adjacent to residential property, even though it's zoned residential, but it's actually owned by us or Georgia Power, and has something on it that is not RA at all. This gives us the ability to say, you don't have to do a buffer. Or, and on the use, if it's something that we say, well, we want to have a little bit of a buffer, we can do that. Have the need for it. Lastly, if you're adjacent to, let's say, a floodplain or something that's not going to get touched, you can now use that as your buffer. We've had variance requests for that, and it's like, that makes sense. Perfect sense to be able to use that. Again, still requires us to look at it at plan review. It's not just a blanket, yes, you can do that. It's a, yeah, we'll look at it at plan review. If we agree to it, Stormwater looks at it, E&S looks at it, we all say, yes, we can work. That's great. Now, the fun part's going to be if they go in and clear it during construction or something, we can argue about that. But again, lots of changes to buffers. I'll shut up now and let y'all ask me any questions if you got any. Recommend approval on this one.
Y'all have any questions? I think you did. I think you covered it well.
We spent a lot of time
Spent a
on
lot of
this discussion item, and
Yes.
it's been debated both at staff level as well as with the development community. And you guys have been a witness to much of those points of discussion. Was a case you guys had to take on as a recommendation to the board. So there's been multi-level consideration and discussion about how to best proceed. So I think this is our attempt on paper to put that to test.
Okay. Any member of the audience would like to speak in favor of this Chapter 90? Any member would like to speak against this? I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of the text amendment to Chapter 74 subdivisions, sections 90-139 buffers and screening.
Second.
Chapter 90?
I'm sorry, Chapter 90 zoning, section 90-139 buffers and screening.
Okay, Chapter 90.
Yep.
Second.
Second. I have a motion. Duly second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Chapter 90 to 90-140.
This one's short. So 9-140 is our landscaping code. Really, this is more of some technical changes. We have clarified that if you're asking for a tree that's not on our tree list, basically can ask for it when you say yay or nay. We've been doing that for years. This is more clarifying that we can do that. Just so if anybody asks a question of why this was done, it's like, well, here's why. Plus, that list of trees, you don't want that to just be the only ones you have. You can have monoculture issues, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of opens that up a little bit more. The next one is with street trees. We've seen the spacing of the trees issue. 40 feet is a little too close. So we're bumping that out to 45. Now, if you're using a smaller tree, it's going from 20 to 25. Realistically, that should help. It also opens up the discussion of the actual types of street trees. There is kind of another conversation behind this with stormwater and kind of the things that they deal with from a erosion and sedimentation standpoint, how we kind of look at view trees and that sort of thing. That's a discussion for another day, but it's one that we're probably going to see some more on that potentially. Now it's going to be a hard argument to say we need more trees after Helene when folks are like, we want it gone. So we'll see how that goes. Last one is that, again, kind of a clarification, when you have two roads coming together within a neighborhood, you don't want to have a street tree like right up on that intersection because you can't see. So this requires us, basically, you have within 120 feet of an intersection, we got to talk about where you're putting trees. And that's one that it's been practiced a little bit, but we want to clarify that here's why we're doing it. It's not consistent. So that's all. The other thing too is that the last part of it is that you can sometimes have, if you're developing a neighborhood, areas that do have trees in them, have street trees or what have you, that usually, so let me back up. Usually when you're putting in trees, tie them to a building permit. You got somebody doing a house. You go there and say, okay, doing this house, you got to put in a street tree and 2 other trees on the property. Great, that's easy to do. Sometimes though you have properties that they'll have areas that are going to be green space, they're going to be owned by the HOA, and it becomes one of those questions of when does that happen? A lot of times we end up kind of having to negotiate at the very end, okay, when are we planting these trees? And now you're going to have trees that are either going to be smaller than the other ones that have already been planted, or could be the wrong types, et cetera, and also becomes a pressure point when you're trying to get a warranty or your warranty period done from the developer side. We want to clarify that basically when they come in on the plat side, we say, okay, this area here, let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's go ahead and figure this out on the front end, and not to worry about it at the end. We're all scrambling on the warranty inspection, and all of a sudden it's like, hey man, you got to go get a dozen trees, and they're like, what do you? I don't want to do that. This kind of lets us talk about it on the front end, figure that out early, and not to argue about it later. So again, approval of that from us, and let me know if you got any questions.
Any questions? Member here would like to speak for this Chapter 90 zoning for 90-140 landscaping. When present would like to speak against this. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of the text amendment to Chapter 90 zoning, Article 4, supplemental requirements, Section 90-140 landscaping.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor duly seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Any legal matters this evening?
Not tonight.
We have any commissioner comments? All right. I have a...
Public comments?
Oh, we have any public comments or participation tonight?
It was what, voted disapproval?
Oh, it was voted disapproval.
Yep. Now, just a recommendation. It's not done yet.
You can take it up with May 6th with the commissioners. Present it again.
So it was a recommendation tonight. It'll go to the Board of Commissioners, like the Chairman said, for May 6th. They'll get final decision. Not final, recommendation only.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the floor to adjourn?
Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We adjourn.